Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Jamnick, and I head Episurf's US business and commercial activities. And I will be here to speak to you a little bit about what we have going on in the United States and why we're so excited about the future. A little bit of background about myself, first of all. I have nearly 18 years of medtech experience. Almost all of that is orthopedic related. Bit of a mix between both large companies, Stryker, Zimmer Biomet, some names you may be familiar with, and smaller sort of emerging startup type of companies. I've helped commercialize businesses in different therapeutic areas on a number of different geographic locations across the world. And I think most relevant to this conversation, I was part of of the initial team at a UK-based company called Stanmore Implants, where we took the technology that was designed in Europe and had been used successfully in Europe for a number of years and sort of brought that company to the United States and helped sort of get things off of the ground in the US. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we are seeing on the ground from surgeons, first of all, and why we're so excited about the marketplace moving forward. First of all, we think we are in a category that is sort of gaining customer attention to a level that has not been seen before. This idea of the middle-aged patient is frankly just not one that has been discussed all that much in orthopedic circles. There tends to have been conversations around sports medicine patients in their 20s and 30s and joint replacement patients in their 60s and 70s. But this idea of the middle-aged patient is something that is gaining traction at medical meetings. You're seeing things like panels of orthopedic surgeons that are being comprised of a mixture of sports medicine surgeons and joint replacement surgeons. We've never seen these types of things before, where people from sort of different ends of the spectrum are coming together to realize that the way that they have been treating patients in their 40s and 50s is maybe needs a little bit more attention. Additionally, we're hearing more and more increased conversation around the need to delay joint replacement surgery. Joint replacement surgery is a wonderful operation with terrific outcomes that has helped millions and millions of people across over the years. However, if done too early, it presents a lot of problems for both patients and surgeons later on in their lives. If someone has their joints replaced when they're 50 years old, it's very likely they're going to need some sort of revision or redo procedure when that patient is in their late 70s or in their 80s. And by the time they come back for that revision procedure, their bone quality is much worse. They have a lot of other medical comorbidities. It's much more expensive. There's a higher risk of infection. Those are the surgeries, these revision joint replacements surgeries, those are the ones that surgeons really want to avoid altogether. And by postponing the initial joint replacement surgery, you can hopefully remove the need for revision surgery later on in patients' lives. In addition to all of this discussion around how do we treat middle-aged patients, there's a growing consensus among surgeons that there are no really good options, and all different previous options, some of which Mr. Spalding just sort of referred to a couple of minutes ago, they have either been designed for patients that are younger, sports medicine type of patients in their 30s and 40s or even younger, or they've been designed joint replacement surgeons, joint replacement implants that have been designed for patients later on in life. And the patients in the middle, they have always been sort of just left with either being faced with some sort of undertreatment or overtreatment. And that is really where all of the different products that we're creating at Episurf, sort of come together. One of the things that really attracted me to come to the company when I came last year was some of these trends that I see throughout the orthopedic market, and specifically in the United States. These trends of personalization, patients wanting to be treated as individuals with a solution geared specifically towards them. There's a big move in the U.S. of surgeons wanting to do as many procedures as possible in what's called the ASC, or the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Everything that Episurf makes, due to its personalized nature, is perfect for ambulatory surgery centers. We have no inventory, which causes we don't need to take up valuable shelf space at these facilities. All of our procedures are minimally invasive enough that they can all be done on an outpatient basis. So we have no issues whatsoever operating within these ASC types of settings. Clinical data emphasis. Mr. Spalding just referenced a lot of this, but regulators around the world are demanding more and more clinical data as we go on, and that is one of the sort of fundamental pillars at Episurf. It's not just a sort of nice to have. Many companies sort of do a minimum viable data possible type of idea, and Episurf has not taken that approach along the way, and therefore we're able to kind of marry the both the kind of what might seem as a paradox, these concepts of introducing something new, but also backing it up by evidence at the same time. We're doing that better than anyone that I've ever seen. On top of that, we have this sort of software platform as well, and this is something you see more and more when you go to medical meetings, is how can we use software to make better hardware, essentially. And we're doing that on a per patient level, not just on a broader spectrum, but down to the individual patient level. So this idea of marrying software and hardware platforms, this is a trend we see in orthopedics, and one that we sort of fit within very, very perfectly. So as we go to talk about some of the products that we're hoping to introduce through the 510K pathway in the next 18 months here, the first of which Paul mentioned earlier is this patellofemoral replacement. So just a brief refresher, we're talking about a two-bone solution here, a metal implant in the trochlea or in the center of the patient's femur, paired with a customized patella on the patient's kneecap. A bit of background as to how we intend to go to market with this type of product. In contrast to many European countries, there's no real national United States distributor that Episurf or any other company could go out and just hire, where you sign one distributor and you have coast-to-coast coverage. Distribution networks are built on a much more local level, and that's exactly what we intend to do. You can see only even the largest multi-billion-dollar companies out there, names you're very familiar with, only those companies even use a combination of their own sales employees and these distributors. Everyone else, aside from the largest companies in the world, they all build these third-party distribution networks, and we intend to do the exact same thing. Now, once we get to these distributors, though, they're just like surgeons. You need to pique their interest in the product. You need to capture their attention. They have other product lines that you can sell, and we're going to be able to do that really, really nicely with our software platform. We intend to be able to sort of capture their attention with our software solutions. These are very catchy. No one's doing this, taking these sort of images, these what people are used to seeing, medical images, x-rays and MRIs. No one's taking these types of things, though, and producing them in such an aesthetically appealing way as we are. And these are very attention-grabbing. We think they'll be able to capture distributors' attention, and ultimately we think distributors will be able to capture surgeon attention with them. So we can use our software platform to grab the attention and capture distributors. And then once we have their attention, we can capitalize on some of the unique product attributes that we think will make this a very compelling and, frankly, a very fun thing for a lot of people to sell out in the market. It's a bone and soft tissue conserving solution. So because we are replacing just the damaged section of a patient's joint, we are burning as few bridges as possible. This concept of burning bridges is something you'll hear oftentimes surgeons speak of. We're burning as few bridges as possible. We are sort of maximally conservative, and by conservative I mean preservation of existing bony and soft tissue structures. And because of that, surgeons can feel confident that if they need to revise an Episealer device down the road, and we're talking 15, 20 years down the road, all of the other surgical options that they would like to be available, they're still all out there on the table for them. We haven't removed anything out of their sort of bag of tricks that they can offer to the patients. And because of this also, we've got rapid rehabilitation. Our product, patients can be up, moving right away. Some of these other more biologically centered alternatives, patients need to be on crutches for a considerable amount of time, and these are people who are in the prime of their working years. It's a major hindrance on them to be unable to fully weight bear on their joints right away. On top of that, we're going to be able to position the patellofemoral product as an extension of the very clinically successful Episealer Knee implant. You saw Mr. Spalding in the previous presentation reference the trochlea implant and how well those trochlea implants are doing long term. The trochlea implant of the already in use product portfolio in Europe, that trochlea implant is the basis for our patellofemoral implant. There's very, very little re-engineering or anything that was done. When we started our product development activities, we took our existing trochlear implant and then marrying it with a customized patella product. So we were going to be able to sort of piggyback or springboard off of the clinically successful Episealer Knee portfolio. If we look at the size of the market, this is a very important chart here on the lower right-hand side. So just as a reminder, patients can get arthritis in their knee in one of three locations or two of three locations or three of three locations. Your knee is actually three separate smaller joints. When someone gets a total knee replacement, they are replacing all 3 sections or compartments of their knee. However, if you look at the chart down below, on the bottom line, that's only 17% of where arthritis actually exists in patients' knees. So many times when people are receiving a total knee replacement, they are receiving technically some form of an over-treatment. They are having healthy sections of their knee removed, sort of getting caught up or swept up in with the damaged sections that need to be addressed. The highlighted part of this table shows that 18%, so almost 1 in 5 patients that present into orthopedic clinics with osteoarthritis of their knee, almost 1 out of 5 of them have it contained or isolated to the patellofemoral compartment. Yet not anywhere close to 1 out of 5 knee implants that goes in as a patellofemoral replacement. So there are historical reasons due to sort of what we consider faulty implant designs in the past that result in this type of market existing, where this is in a market where we can take an existing share of a sort of a pie that's already created, but we also think that there's plenty of room to expand the overall pie as well over time. I mentioned some of these existing industry trends that exist. On the right-hand column, this product that we're ready to launch in the US within a couple of months, this fits perfectly within all of these types of trends. It's personalized. It can be used in the ASC setting. It leverages off of existing clinical data, and yet it marries this software and hardware sort of combination that I've mentioned in the past. There's a broad group of available customers that we will be able to speak about this product with. This pie chart here shows a breakdown amongst orthopedic surgeons and where they go to do a fellowship, or where they go and do 1 year of additional subspecialty training at the end of their residency. The 2 largest sections of the chart, sports medicine and adult reconstruction. Adult reconstruction is another term for joint replacement. But sports medicine and adult reconstruction, those 2 combined, that's almost 50% of the market, or almost 50% of the available surgeons, the existing U.S. surgeons. That's our target market. If you throw on probably another 10% that do no subspecialty training, most of those surgeons probably deal with these types of problems as well. So we're talking, at a minimum, half of the roughly 30,000 U.S. orthopedic surgeons are surgeons that will be able to, we will be able to speak to about this product, and they will see patients with this type of condition. So how are we going to sell this, or what do we think are some of the reasons that could be compelling to a surgeon? One is that we're dealing with, in the patellofemoral joint, a location of high anatomic variance. If everyone in the audience here, or everyone listening from home, there are different spots on your own skeletal system where, from person to person, they're very, very similar. And then there are other spots of your skeletal system where there's high variance. They're very different. Everyone in the audience here has a very different patellofemoral joint from the person sitting next to them. And where there are different high variance skeletal locations, that's where Episurf's personalized solutions really come to shine. The higher the difference is from person to person on their anatomic structures, the more that our personalized solutions really come to the forefront. On top of that, in the U.S., as there are in many countries around the world, there's a very high arthroplasty burden. There's more and more people need the procedure. There's a huge sort of population gap that is aging into these years that are prime arthroplasty years. And as a result of that, more and more surgeons that have typically kind of a sports medicine background, they're looking to sort of inch into the joint replacement world. And we provide a very nice sort of on-ramp for those surgeons, because this patellofemoral product, this is a partial knee replacement, but it sort of marries the mindset of a sports medicine surgeon. So those surgeons have been trained for many, many years thinking about bony conservation, bony preservation, soft tissue preservation. So we can take some of these sort of sports medicine types of concepts that they are comfortable and familiar with, and provide them with a partial knee replacement type of solution. It's a very, very sort of nice on-ramp to aid their movement or their slow march into the joint replacement world. And on top of that, one of the major reasons that these patellofemoral products, in our opinion, have never seen as much uptick or as much commercial traction as compared to the magnitude of the clinical problem is that surgeons are always a little bit hesitant when they replace, if they go to replace one of the 3 sections of the knee, they're always a little bit worried that there is damage that they can't see or understand in some of the other sections of the knee. And if they go in to replace one and leave the other 2 untreated, the patient's going to be back really quickly with a problem in another spot of their knee. Our software solution, though, is something that will help aid them in their own patient selection efforts. And we think that this is a real sort of value added to the surgeons, that we can help assist them in their patient selection efforts. Because our software, if there is a problem in another location within the knee, our software is going to be able to tell them that ahead of time. And even if we may say, thank you for considering us, but however, you know, our patellofemoral product would fit nicely in this area, but there's other areas of the knee that you may need to consider. That's going to be a real, we're aiding the surgeon in their own sort of clinical activities that they would do normally. And that's something that they will really appreciate and come to, I think, really value from us as sort of a partner in their practice of helping their patients. We also have this product, as we're thinking about it, it is something that 10 or 15 years ago, the way to sell implants was just, let's go make as cool of technology as we have as possible, and let's go run to the surgeons and get them very excited about it and hope that they'll put it in. That's still important, but it's not as it's an addition. It's an activity that needs to be done today in addition to addressing other areas within the entire sort of value ecosystem. So, addressing the hospital system's needs, addressing the patient's needs, frankly, and addressing the surgeon's needs. And we have a product that we think is really well situated to address this sort of multi-headed customer and satisfy a lot of the needs of the surgeons, the patients, and the healthcare systems along the way. So the patellofemoral product will be our first product out to the market, again, via the 510K pathway, and we hope to have that available within a couple of months here. And roughly 12 months or so after that time, we'll move on to the to introducing the toe product, or the MTP market, to the U.S. The toe market, or the MTP market in the U.S., this is a big problem and is a everyday sort of problem for foot and ankle surgeons. Hallux rigidus, that's this condition, arthritis of the first toe. This is an everyday problem for foot and ankle surgeons. The U.S. population is about 330 million people. Roughly 1/3 of those are above the age of 50, and roughly 2.5% of those, so 1 out of 25 of those, suffers from hallux rigidus. So there are almost 3 million people in the U.S. today walking around with this problem. We're having conversations right now with a number of prominent surgeons who think that the approach that we're taking and the personalized way that we are able to address the joint will really shine some light on really kind of breaking through some real innovation here. So as we think about this, I want to just bring up the sort of contrast a little bit, the difference between foot and ankle surgeons and knee surgeons. The foot and ankle market historically has really moved a lot more dynamically than the knee market in the past. There are numerous examples of things that have happened within just the past 5 or 10 years of new products that can come out in the foot and ankle space, and new products that can come out to address this same clinical indication, and have seen widespread adoption very, very quickly. I think it really speaks to the magnitude of the problem and the limitations of some of the existing technologies that surgeons will sort of move en masse to a much greater degree in the foot and ankle space than they historically have in the knee space. What you're seeing here is a video from the NBC National News. So this is one of the main 3 broadcast networks in the U.S. It's not easy to get any kind of story related to orthopedic implants to be covered on the national news, but it does go to show the promise that a lot of these products and the promise that solving this problem of hallux rigidus has on this patient population. What we see here is sort of a chart of a product that was introduced a couple of years ago, and within 24 months was taking double-digit market shares very, very quickly. Again, the foot and ankle surgeons historically, at least for this specific problem, have shown how they are much more comfortable and much more willing to move en masse to help their patients to adopt a new technology. Now, this particular product didn't exactly sort of work out, and there's a number of more sort of complicated reasons why. But again, we think we're playing in the right space, and we have the right solution to address this. So in sum, what I'll sort of leave everyone with is that I think we have a company profile that is really consistent with a lot of the major orthopedic trends that are happening out there. We have personalized solutions. We're ASC friendly, we're data rich, and we're digital. We have a surgeon group that is vocalizing on their own, really, frankly, independent from us yet in the US, a surgeon group who is vocalizing on their own a lot of the major problems that we're intending to solve. And within the next 18 months, both via the 510K regulatory pathway, we have a couple of new products that both target unmet needs and underserved patient populations. They both treat high variance skeletal locations. They both offer a lot of opportunities to both take share and grow the overall market at the same time. They both have established reimbursement structures in place and established sort of markets already in place. And they're both well suited to address the multi-headed customer. Thank you, everyone.